Greetings, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Welcome back to my Raft series. Today we're not going to be exploring any monolithic islands or anything super fancy like that. We're going to focus on potentially a couple of upgrades, a couple of improvements, and just doing a bit of a general restock. So, get yourself strapped in, get your favorite, swimming outfit happening, and yeah, let's get on with it. Now, for this episode, we're not using the motors or the engines. The main reason for that is at the moment, the only way or we can fuel them is essentially with wood. There are other ways we can fuel them, and we will go into that a bit later in the episode. But for the moment, we are, if we want to go somewhere quick to use the engines, we're gonna need to expend a lot of wood, and we just actually don't have that much wood at the moment, at least not to spare. So we are just on the drift essentially. We're using sails just to keep us moving away from Balboa Island, but we're essentially just drifting along, collecting what we can collect, just to try and get our wood supply restocked. While we're doing it, we're going to work on the first of those upgrades. And essentially, we are going to be building a beehive, as I have highlighted in the crafting at the moment. Beehive is where we will have, or we will be able to regularly harvest beeswax. And beeswax is part of the recipe to make honey, and honey it's going to come in handy down the track. So we want to get our beehive set up. I was hoping I could get 2 of them set up, but there wasn't enough bee jars, which is what you get when you net the bees on the islands. You get a certain amount of bee jars per netting. We ended up with more than what we needed for 1, but not quite enough for 2. Now, you might be wondering what we're setting up here. Well, to get optimal efficiency out of your beehive, it needs to be near flowers. Aha, you say. Finally, we have a use for those flower seeds that we picked up quite a long time ago. And yes, you would be correct. This is the sole reason why I have those flowers, and we'll come to the planting of them a little bit later. But because they're plants and they're small plants, they suffer the same fate as any of the normal fruit and veg that you might choose to grow in the little plots. And that is to say, the seagulls will come and get them if they're not protected. So that's what this little structure is all about. We're just trying to create an enclosure where we can drop down some small crop plots, plant a bunch of flowers, get them to grow up, and then that will keep our bees happy. Now, we don't harvest these flowers. Once they're grown, that's it. We just leave them there. But we don't want the seagulls eating them. And so this is what this sort of arrangement is all about. Of note, though, I did miss one little element of this particular setup. Now, it's been a while since I've set one of these up, and I forgot to put one floor piece in to fully protect it from seagull, and I didn't even realize that after the fact. I ended up coming up with a slightly different solution, which arguably is a bit less efficient. It doesn't matter. The end result is going to work for what we want to do, and we're rapidly, I'll say, implementing that at the moment. We've got to the point where we're just making a few crop plots. I couldn't remember the exact number that works the best. Obviously, you can make as many as you feel you need to, but I couldn't remember if it was 2 or 3 or 4. So I had enough materials. I just made 4 of them. And so in amongst an attack of the dreaded tapeworm, we're going to get these set up and watered and put some flowers in them, and then we'll just let it be. In terms of getting this set up, obviously the small crop plots aren't very kind of optimal in a 2x2 arrangement. I was debating about where I'd put the other one, and then I just end up sort of reshuffling a little bit. Yeah, in the end, I don't suspect it would have made a lot of difference how I had these set up. The main thing is, if you're planning on getting your little bee hut set up with this floor plan, don't put any of them near the front door where you walk in, because A, you're not going to have a door on it, and B, if you get that close, even though it's under the roof line, the seagull will come and eat your plants. So you do need to keep them away from that front door. That's how you keep it protected. Anyway, here's our seeds. We're suffering from a bad case of numbers here. I got fixated on, we've got 4 crop plots of 3 seeds each, and I've got 5 different colours of flower, and I just kind of forget about the white ones, basically. I don't think, the colours of the flowers have any functional impact on the efficiency of the bees. If you want to set up an aesthetic or keep all the colours in one crop plot, or, however you choose to roll with these things, I'm sure it's all going to work for you. And this setup does work well enough for us. And I've left room on the shelf there. If we get some more bees, we will set up another beehive. Now, the importance of the beehives and the honey will become apparent a little bit later. For the moment, we've got to focus a bit on a bit of a restock here. So ideally, I wanted to find a big island, and at this stage I'm still sort of searching, so to speak. But for the moment, because I need metal, honestly, I'll settle for a small island, because the metal supply on these small islands is actually not that bad. And there's a few less, things to deal with when you're on a small island. It's pretty much, deal with our Sharky Nom Nom's friend. Once you get your shark out of the way, you pretty much got free reign over everything around the island. So that's going to be our plan in the background for the rest of the episode. And there's going to be a lot of cuts coming up, because, as you're going to see, the battle with the shark wasn't particularly smooth, and I'm going to blame the fact that there may have been a little bit of overconfidence involved. There may be quite a bit of, I haven't actually physically done this since before Christmas, and I was a bit rusty as well. So anyway, we'll cover that off. For the moment, because the flowers are now growing, we can see the bees are now active, and they do produce pretty efficiently. Like, this isn't something that you would necessarily be only harvesting like once per raft day. I'm pretty sure it comes up more often than that. I probably don't end up harvesting it as often as I potentially could. That said, though, I think it has a bit of a, you get 1, then you get 2, then you get 3 kind of arrangement. So the longer you leave it, to an extent, obviously once it gets up to 3, it's not going to grow any more than that. But if you're leaving it for, most of a raft day between harvesting, I think you're going to be okay. Now we're coming back here, and you'll see it's got like the honey stuff running out the sides of the beehive. That's how you know it's ready to get some beeswax. So you just walk up to it and hit grab, and boom, there you go, your beeswax. And that's it. Now that one plant that was missing, yeah, that was where the seagull got in, and then that one plant that I just harvested, that was, I don't know, half reflex, I suppose. I'm just so used to mousing over a plant and then harvesting it, and I realised my mistake afterwards and then just replanted it. So yeah, anyway. Here's our first little expedition into the murky waters around the island. We wanted to find Bruce the shark, and here he is. And we actually start the fight amazingly well. This is where the overconfidence came in. Look at this. I've got 3 hits on Bruce, and he hasn't hit me once. And then that's where it starts going wrong. Yeah, anyway. It's a bit of a timing thing, and I chanced on exactly the right timing for those first couple of passes, and then I completely messed it up for a couple of passes, and then I got to the point where it's like, I better get out of the water and just do something else for a while. So that's what I did, and that's what that cut is. I essentially went off and, did some cooking and some other things in the background. While I let my health regenerate. We're, picking up where we left off. I mean, I get the ability to regenerate hit points, but Bruce does not. He just stays wherever he was when you last stabbed him. So we are just, again, not really getting the timing right there. So we get low on health, and then we go out and we do some more improvements. Now, from our picking up of blueprints on Balboa Island, we got 2 fairly important things. We got the blueprint for a fuel tank, and we got the blueprint for a biofuel refiner. Now, I like to get those both set up in pretty much the same spot on the raft. And that is to say, to get it fairly close to where the engines are. The ultimate goal is that we want to plumb it all in so that we can refine, we can load it into the fuel tank, and have it all roughly in the same place on the raft. So that's the goal we've got. We're just hashing out a aft deck here above the engines, and this is going to be where we look at getting the biofuel refiner set up, and then a bit later, once we start, building up enough biofuel, we'll go ahead and make ourselves a fuel tank as a more efficient way of storing the biofuel. For the moment, though, with only 1 beehive, and we haven't gone nuts with our farm yet, that's a whole other subject which we'll do in a future episode. But we haven't sort of moved into mass production mode with biofuel. We're just getting the basics set up, and that's pretty much all I'm going to focus on in this episode. There's a few other things we'll get done, but as far as biofuel is concerned, this is all we're going to be doing in this episode. So, we've got our biofuel refiner. Now, it actually requires 2 ingredients. One is some sort of plant matter, generally, and the other item it needs is honey. Now, we're going to make some honey now. It involves beeswax and glass. And glass, of course, comes from smelting sand. Beeswax comes from the beeswax, most of this beeswax is what we got on Balboa Island. But of course, we have our own beehive now, so we've got a steady supply, ticking away in the background. We combine the 2, and we end up with some honey. And of note, you actually get 2 honey jars per, round of ingredients that you put into it. So the honey side of it is fairly cheap to make. What isn't particularly cheap in a time sense is the other ingredient that you choose to put in. From past experience, I tend to use big fruits where I can. And in this case, we're going to use watermelon. Because you can fill, as we're about to do, you can fill the vat. All right, so you put your honey in there, and then you've got to fill the vat. Now, it will seemingly default to potatoes if I don't have, like, if I'm not holding something else in my hand. But then if you hold something else in your hand, it'll give you the opportunity to put that in instead. But it needs to be something planty, so vegetables like potatoes or beets or mangoes or whatever. It needs to be one of those. Now, with your farming, I can predict at some stage in the future, depending on how often I choose to use the engines, the watermelons are probably, we're not going to be able to keep up with demand with watermelons. Basically, wherever we're ahead, we'll use watermelons. But the minute we run out, we're just going to go crazy with potatoes. Now, it takes a lot more potatoes. It's like 20 potatoes, I think, from memory, to fill up that biofuel, like the vegetable side of the biofuel. And yeah, it's pretty nuts time wise to produce 20 potatoes. I'm going to I'm planning to optimize my farming a lot better this time round. So I'm hoping that producing 20 potatoes is not going to be quite the endurance exercise it has been in some of my previous playthroughs. Now, I sort of skimmed over a bit of a mess up there, and I'm going to rewind and kind of cover it off. When we killed Bruce, we kind of stuffed up a bit. I guess I got too used to completely clearing the bodies when I was, fighting the rats and then fighting the bears. There's no sort of head that you would normally leave behind on those. You just loot the whole thing. You get some, food and whatnot off them, and then that's it. You move on. But of course, we haven't had to deal with Bruce for a while, and we sort of forgot that we don't completely loot the body. And so we ended up completely looting the body, which means Bruce is going to come back a bit quicker than we would have ideally liked. And in fact, there he is. That said, though, I'm not really treating this as a mistake per se, because we actually don't have very much shark meat. In fact, I don't think we've got any other than what we just got off the previous Bruce. So having Bruce coming back like this is going to give us the opportunity to get more shark meat, which will definitely come in handy a bit later when we get more of the cooking recipes. So even though I admit that it was a bit of a mistake, it's not actually, it's one of these failing successfully kind of exercises. So, yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd cover that. We're going to beat Bruce up, and then we're going to get back to clearing the reef around this island. Now, I think this could qualify as the longest spiel I've ever done in any of my videos, and for anyone that does not necessarily appreciate the Australian drone of my voice, apologies for that, but, when you're on a roll, you're on a roll. Anyway, I'm going to return you to the action now for a bit, so you can quietly enjoy the tranquil splendor that is me, giving Bruce a bit of comeuppance. Alright, well, apparently that means Bruce is there. He's given us our little love bite on the shoulder to say he's back patrolling the reef. At this stage, honestly, I'm happy enough with what we have recovered. We're not going to worry about killing this Bruce. He gets to live for another day. We're just going to go about our business unloading our spoils of looting the reef. We did okay on metal. Apparently that version of the island is one of the ones that maybe doesn't have quite as much as some of the others, but that said, we did alright. I'm not going to complain on that front. As we finish unloading, we are just putting a bit of thought into what our next upgrades are going to be. At this stage, we're probably going to be looking at just focusing on making biofuel for a while. And we'll, as we cast off, we're going to get back on the drift and we're going to build up our supplies of wood and other essentials. We'll also look at stopping off at any of the other sort of islands that we stumble across along the way. We're not intentionally heading to the next location just yet. We do have a bit of work to do before we want to head off there. Now, all and other things will occur in future episodes. Speaking of episodes, we've reached the end of this one. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and to consider subscribing if you are not already subscribed. Until next time, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you very much for watching and make sure you have yourself an absolutely fantastic day.